Hello YouTube, this is Let's Talk Horror and welcome back to another video. Okay guys, so it was a big weekend in the world of video games with Summer Games Fest 2024 happening this past weekend, and there were a few horror announcements that I wanted to jump on and talk about, so that's what I'm going to do right now. Let's jump right in. So the first big horror reveal or horror announcement was that of Blumhouse Games. Now, we have known for a while that Blumhouse Games is trying to get into horror video games and transition into video games. And to be honest, I didn't know what to think of that. I kind of thought this was going to be a repeat of Netflix games, where it's kind of all sizzle and no steak. Now, what I mean by that is, remember several years ago when Netflix first got into games? I don't remember specifically what year, but when they first got into games, it was a big deal. And that has pretty much just turned out to be small, like mobile games. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I play mobile games too from time to time. A lot of us do. But let's call a spade a spade. A lot of people, and especially hardcore gamers, when you first heard that Netflix games was happening and Netflix was going to dip their toes in the world of video game, you didn't think, oh, well, we're going to get a bunch of sweet mobile games. No, you thought you were going to be booting up your Xbox or your PlayStation or your PC, and you were going to be loading up a Netflix console game or a Netflix PC game, and we really haven't gotten that. We've just gotten these small arcade-style mobile games, and I don't think they've actually made anything for consoles or PC or anything like that. Let me know in the comments if that's true. So I kind of was wondering if Blumhouse was going to do the same thing to us. But with this reveal trailer this past Friday, I believe it was, that didn't happen. These actually look like games that I'll be able to boot up on my Xbox and be able to play. And that's really cool in and of its own right. I heard a lot of people were disappointed that this reveal was not of like a Five Nights at Freddy's game or a Megan's game or a Paranormal Activity game, anything like that. You know, it's all original content. These look like they revealed like 5 or 6 titles, which kind of surprised people, including myself. It's all like indie content. They are partnering, it appears, with some indie developers, and it's all kind of stuff that can be made for a relatively small amount of money. And that sounds exactly like the model Blumhouse wants to use. I mean, that is not dissimilar to the model they got into the movie business with, and that's not dissimilar to the model they continue to use in the movie business. So I wasn't that surprised or disappointed by that. I mean, maybe I was a little disappointed. Yeah, overall, what did I think of the reveal trailer? I actually thought it looked pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised because I did have questions of whether their model of just putting such a low budget into something could work for games in the same way that it has for movies. But I was pleasantly surprised. A lot of those games look like they could be decent. I think I'm going to try out a lot of those games. I especially like that one that looks like Stardew Valley, but with like a horror twist. That looks really cool. But the big thing I wanted to talk about with Blumhouse is the reason I was looking forward to their presentation mostly is because I wanted to find out what this whole thing with Friday the 13th was. Because if you don't remember, it's been about a month now. The Jason universe was launched, and one of the first accounts their Twitter account was following, the Jason universe Twitter account was following, was of Blumhouse. And that set off alarm bells for a lot of people because pretty much every account they're following right now, and they're following 11 now, whether it's A24, whether it's IGN, which announced the Jason universe, whether it's Paramount Plus, all of them have obvious connections to the Friday the 13th franchise, except Blumhouse. Blumhouse, there's no connection whatsoever to Friday the 13th, except Blumhouse has said on multiple occasions, hey, we want to make a Friday the 13th. We desperately want the rights to this franchise and the rights to make a movie. And so my first inkling when this happened, just as a refresher, was maybe they finally worked out a deal behind the scenes where they can make a movie. And that's what I said in my video covering the Jason Universe announcement. I wasn't too positive in that video, but that was kind of one of the more hopeful things I said is, hey, maybe Blumhouse finally worked out a deal to make a movie. And that hope lasted about a week because Sean Cunningham at a convention put a kibosh to any movie happening anytime soon because he specifically said we're going to have to wait at least 3 years for a movie. And then the other theory floating around is hey, Blumhouse Games is going to be announcing first games they're working on at Summer Games Fest. And so everyone thought, hey, a new Friday the 13th is in development. A new Friday the 13th game, I should say. Maybe that's part of this announcement. And this whole thing came and it went and there is no Friday the 13th. And in fact, right after the announcement, and by the way, I always had doubts about this announcement, or about that theory, I should say, because Friday the 13th and the Jason Universe was following Blumhouse Productions, but they were never following Blumhouse Games in the lead up to Summer Games Fest. Well, right after the announcement at Summer Games Fest, there was nothing Friday the 13th related announced, but the Jason Universe Twitter account officially started following Blumhouse Games. So guys, I don't know what to make of this at all. I can be straight with you on that. And I hate to say it, my new theory is this whole thing was just for attention. I don't think anything is happening with Blumhouse or Blumhouse Games when it comes to Friday the 13th. We know there's a new Friday the 13th game in development. I just think they did all this for attention. I just think they did all this to get the fans up in arms and to get attention on this new announcement. And in that way, it was genius, man, because it really caused a stir in the horror community for obvious reasons. And let's call a spade a spade. Right now, we probably wouldn't be talking about the Jason Universe very much and the announcement or lack thereof over this weekend without them following Blumhouse and Blumhouse Games on Twitter. It does keep the attention on the Jason Universe, and that's why I think they did it. That's why I think they did it. I, at this point, don't think, or I have serious doubts of anything happening between Friday the 13th and Blumhouse Games or Blumhouse Productions. I don't think anything's happening. I hope I'm wrong. I could certainly be wrong. As of right now, I am of the belief that they just did that to cause a stir in the horror community and to get attention on their new multimedia universe or whatever it is. And if that was the mission, it certainly succeeded. So overall, I was pleasantly surprised by the Blumhouse Games reveal. And yeah, I'm excited to see when they will get released and firing up my console and be playing some Blumhouse games. So I'm cautiously optimistic right now. So I wanted to cover the other major news coming out of the big video game weekend, which comes from the universe of John Carpenter's The Thing, and that is the 2002 video game version of The Thing, which serves as a sequel to John Carpenter's The Thing, is getting a remastered edition that is expected to release this year. I couldn't be more excited for this, and for those who know, and obviously most know, these classic games from the late 90s and early 2000s getting remade or remastered editions is nothing new. And some examples of video games that were huge on my childhood and had a huge impact on my adolescent years getting remakes or remastered editions are the Halo games as part of the Master Chief Collection. Destroy All Humans was another huge game of my childhood that got remastered versions a couple of years ago. That and the sequel Destroy All Humans 2 got remastered versions. Ghostbusters. The Ghostbusters video game from 2009 was another one I played a ton of as a teenager and had a great time with, and that got a remastered version that was released a couple of years ago. The Arkham games, I loved those back in the day, and those got remastered and re-released a couple of years ago. So my point is, this is nothing new, and personally I think it's great. It gives an opportunity for people like me, as someone who grew up in that era of gaming, the PlayStation 2 and original Xbox era of gaming. It gives us an opportunity to relive our childhood in some way and have a bit of nostalgia while playing these great games again. And it introduces these classic games to a new generation of players. So I think it works out well for everyone. I have no issue with it. I know Dead Space is another popular one from that time that got a remastered edition just, I think it was last year it got released. So that's another one. And next on the docket is the 2002 version of The Thing. And the interesting thing about this is one that I have never played. I've seen gameplay of it. I watched part of a walkthrough for it a year or two ago, but I never got to play it as a kid. I was too young. I had not seen The Thing at that point in my life, and so I didn't have the same interest I would have now. And I've heard a lot of good things. This game has a seriously devoted cult following to it, and I've heard people talk this up a lot. And yeah, I couldn't be more excited to play, because for once, as I said earlier, for these games appeal to the people that grew up in that era and played those games from the late 90s and early 2000s. It gives us that dose of nostalgia, that dose of reliving our childhood. And usually I'm in that position, but now I get to be in the position of, someone who is too young to play it. And I get to have it introduced to me, and I get to experience it for the first time, and I think that's great. So I'm so excited to experience this game for the first time after years of hearing it hyped up for me. At the same time, it is an IP and a property in a movie that I love. It's based off of John Carpenter's masterpiece of The Thing, and even though I didn't watch it as a kid and hadn't seen it at the time, I now recognize The Thing as one of the greatest and possibly the greatest horror movie of all time, an absolute masterpiece in practical effects and an absolute masterpiece in general. And I have to watch it at least 3 or 4 times a year. That's where I find myself, man, because it's that good of a movie. Even though I've seen it quite a few times now, I just want to keep coming back for more. So, and overall, I'm just happy that this is going to shine a spotlight on The Thing. Man, I'm just so happy about that, because as celebrated of a movie as the 1982 John Carpenter's The Thing is, it for whatever reason, there's never been a lot of longevity to that concept, and I think there should be. Like, we have the original 1982 movie. I know it's a remake, but the 1951 The Thing from Another World is a different take on the concept entirely. And I don't know, man. I just think there's a lot more to do with that concept of an alien that can assimilate living things perfectly. There's just so much that can be done, and yet that hasn't been done. And finally, it seems like some things are being done with it. Like, we're getting that Funko Fusion game that's going to have a Thing chapter in it. We're getting this remastered edition. And if that does well, who knows? Maybe Blumhouse will speed up work on the reboot they're working on. Maybe we'll get a full modern day asymmetrical horror experience of The Thing, or something else. Maybe a game based on The Thing that is in the style of like The Quarry or whatever. That would be great. Hopefully this shines more light on the movie, on John Carpenter's masterpiece, and on the universe in general, because we only have that 1982 movie and then a prequel that I think has its positives, but is pretty fatally flawed for what it's going for. And hopefully we start to get more content out of this universe, because I think there's a lot more stories to tell. But overall, guys, yeah, I am super excited for this remastered version to come out. I can't wait to play it, and I can't wait to experience it for the first time after having it hyped up for me all these years. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Okay, take care.